Mystery surrounds a shock last-minute cancellation by Prince William. The palace only revealing the royal no-show was due to a personal matter.
The moment Prince William confirmed that Lady Louise would inherit a private cottage on the Balmoral estate, something shifted inside the walls of the monarchy. And what Camilla did next wasn't loud. It was calculated. This was not just a sweet family gesture. This was a line drawn in the sand, a quiet but undeniable message from beyond the grave of Queen Elizabeth herself. And when that message became public, the reaction inside royal circles was not what you think. Balmoral is not just land. It is not just stone and timber and Scottish mist curling over the hills at sunrise. It is the most intimate heartbeat of the Windsor dynasty. When the public imagines royalty, they picture Buckingham Palace, the balcony waves, the red carpets, the polished protocol. But insiders have always known Buckingham Palace is a stage. Balmoral is home. It is where the masks come off. It is where secrets are kept. And it is where Queen Elizabeth chose to spend her final hours on September 8th, 2022. That matters. Because when Elizabeth made decisions about Balmoral, she was not acting as a ceremonial monarch, she was acting as a mother, a grandmother, a woman who understood exactly who stood by her when the cameras were off. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert bought Balmoral in 1852 with private funds. Not crown money, not taxpayer money, personal money. That means the estate belongs to the monarch personally. It can be left to anyone. And Queen Elizabeth knew that very well. She knew that when she directed that a cottage, a piece of the most sacred royal ground, go to Lady Louise Windsor, not to a senior royal, not to a queen, not to a future monarch's wife, to a 21-year-old who barely courts the spotlight. When Prince William stepped forward and confirmed this inheritance publicly, he didn't have to. Let's be very clear about that. As Prince of Wales, his plate is overflowing. He is balancing his father's reduced public schedule after the February 2024 cancer announcement. He is supporting Catherine through her own 2024 cancer diagnosis. He is managing his own household. He is preparing for the crown. Yet he chose to put his voice behind Louise. Why? Because he has watched what happens when loyalty goes unrewarded. He watched his brother Harry spiral from adored spare to estranged prince across the ocean, speaking about feeling unprotected and unsupported. Whether one agrees with Harry or not is irrelevant. William saw the fracture. He saw what happens when someone feels invisible. Louise has done the opposite. She stepped away from the princess title. She chose privacy over branding. She kept her head down. When Prince Philip was dying, she learned carriage driving, so his seat would not be empty at his memorial. At just 17, she guided his beloved carriage at Windsor with steady hands and a face that betrayed nothing but dignity. That image lingered in the mind of the Queen. Elizabeth noticed who shows up quietly. Louise was born November 8, 2003, 8 weeks premature, delivered by emergency cesarean at Frimley Park Hospital, weighing barely over 4 pounds. There were tense hours before palace aides confirmed she was stable. In her first year, she underwent surgery for esotropia, a condition affecting one eye. Her entry into the world was fragile, not fairy tale. Her parents, Prince Edward and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, raised her differently. They shielded her. They focused on normalcy. No social media circus, no press games. When she came of age, she had the legal right to be Princess Louise. She declined, but she chose to remain Lady Louise. That decision alone told Elizabeth something profound. Louise studies English at St. Andrews, the same university where William met Catherine. She has built her life without monetizing her name. She has not weaponized interviews. She has not flirted with rebellion for applause. And Queen Elizabeth, who spent 70 years observing human behavior at the highest levels, understood character. Now let's talk about Camilla. When news of the inheritance spread, Camilla did not lash out. She did not release a counterstatement. She did not stage a confrontation. Instead, she increased her visibility. More solo engagements, more high-profile literary events, more appearances centered on literacy campaigns and domestic abuse awareness, more interviews, more presence. That is not random. Camilla understands optics better than most. She knows her legal position as queen is secure. But public affection? That has always been conditional. The shadow of Diana has never fully lifted. The 1995 Martin Basher interview, watched by 22.8 million in the UK, cemented a narrative that still echoes. There were 3 of us in this marriage, Diana said. And Camilla's name became part of public memory in a way that is impossible to erase. Elizabeth witnessed that implosion. She saw her son's marriage unravel. She saw Diana's tragic death in 1997 shake the monarchy to its core. She saw public fury almost destabilize the institution. When Charles married Camilla in 2005, Elizabeth did not attend the civil ceremony at Windsor Guildhall. Officially, she had another engagement. Unofficially, royal watchers never stopped analyzing that absence. Even Camilla's title was originally intended to be Princess Consort, not Queen. It was only in February 2022, during Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee message, that she publicly expressed her sincere wish for Camilla to be known as Queen Consort. The wording was careful, measured. Not effusive. So, when Elizabeth's private will directed a treasured Balmoral cottage to Louise, bypassing senior figures, it spoke volumes without saying a word. Camilla's reaction, stepping further into the spotlight, reveals more than a statement ever could. You do not amplify your presence unless you feel something shifting beneath you, because here is the truth no one says out loud. Camilla is Charles's queen, constitutionally solid, but when the reign changes, so does power. When William ascends, Camilla becomes Queen Dowager, a different role, a quieter one. And if William's inner circle is not emotionally bonded to her, that transition may not be seamless. Meanwhile, look at who is rising. Edward and Sophie are more visible. They now hold the Edinburgh title once carried by Philip. They are steady, dependable, non-scandalous. Andrew is sidelined after the Epstein catastrophe and disastrous interview. Harry lives in California. The monarchy has slimmed down. William's focus is sharp, and he publicly stood beside Louise. This is not about a cottage. It is about alignment. King Charles announced his cancer diagnosis in February 2024 following a prostate procedure. Buckingham Palace confirmed treatment had begun. Appearances reduced. William stepping in more. The public sees it. The institution feels it. In times of transition, loyalty is currency. Louise is 21. She holds a piece of Balmoral. She holds Elizabeth's private trust. She holds William's visible backing. That combination is not accidental. Camilla's increased engagements signal resilience. She rebuilt her image once before, from vilified outsider to crowned queen. That requires steel. But the inheritance moment is a reminder that love inside the family is not distributed by title. Elizabeth made one final quiet move. She gave part of her soul to a granddaughter who never asked for applause. And when William confirmed it, he wasn't just honoring a will, he was declaring what kind of king he intends to be. And here's where the temperature inside the palace corridors truly rises, because this is no longer just about what Queen Elizabeth did. It's about what happens next when private affection collides with public power. The cottage at Balmoral may look modest compared to the grand halls of Buckingham Palace, but do not be fooled by scale. In royal terms, this is prime emotional territory. Balmoral is where monarchs exhale, and where decisions are made without advisors hovering, where conversations happen in riding boots, not tiaras. To be given a permanent foothold there is to be written into the most intimate chapter of Windsor history. Louise didn't lobby for it. She didn't campaign. She didn't leak to the press. And that, ironically, is exactly why she received it. Think about the symbolism. Elizabeth's final months were spent largely at Balmoral. It was her sanctuary, her refuge during political storms, family scandals, and global crises. When she passed there in September 2022, it wasn't accidental. It was intentional. She chose to be in the place that felt most like herself. So carving out a piece of that land for Louise was not a casual estate decision. It was deeply personal. And personal decisions inside royal families often create silent ripple effects. Camilla understood that instantly. Her strategy was not confrontation. It was positioning. By increasing her public engagements, she reminded the country that she is not ornamental. She championed literacy campaigns, attended high-profile literary festivals, strengthened her domestic abuse initiatives, and leaned into causes that frame her as compassionate and culturally engaged. Every appearance carried a subtle undertone. I am present. I am working. I belong here. That kind of visibility is not vanity. It is survival. Because once Charles announced his cancer diagnosis in February 2024, the monarchy entered a transitional haze. Appearances scaled back, duties redistributed, William stepping forward more frequently. The public beginning to picture him not as future king, but imminent king. And in that mental shift, alliances matter. William's support of Louise was not merely familial affection. It was an early indicator of his inner circle, a preview of the monarchy he is quietly shaping. He has already shown preference for a streamlined institution, fewer working royals, clearer loyalty lines, minimal scandal tolerance. Andrew is effectively erased from frontline duties after the Epstein fallout and that catastrophic interview. Harry remains across the Atlantic, estranged and outside the operational framework of the crown. The old structure has thinned. Who remains? Steady figures. Edward and Sophie have stepped up noticeably. They carry the Edinburgh title now, once Philip's. They undertake engagements without drama, without headline chasing. They are dependable. And their daughter, Louise, fits seamlessly into that profile. Now imagine the optics from Camilla's perspective. She has spent decades rebuilding, from being publicly vilified during the Diana years to being formally crowned alongside Charles. That journey required endurance few could withstand. She transitioned from other woman to queen consort. But history leaves shadows. When Elizabeth publicly endorsed her as queen consort in February 2022, the phrasing was deliberate. It is my sincere wish. Those words carried weight, but they were also measured. Camilla's acceptance was dignified. Yet seasoned observers noticed the careful choreography. So when Elizabeth's most personal asset, Balmoral, partially bypassed Camilla's influence and landed in Louise's hands, it quietly reinforced something. Affection Affection is not automatically transferred by marriage. That doesn't mean hostility. It means hierarchy of trust. Louise represents continuity without controversy. She is young, educated, discreet, emotionally connected to Philip's legacy through carriage driving, and visibly supported by William. She is also at St. Andrews, the university that shaped William and Catherine's own love story. The symbolism layers stack neatly. And then there is Catherine. Her own 2024 cancer diagnosis shifted public sympathy heavily toward the Wales household. The image of William balancing fatherhood, royal duty, and a spouse's health crisis created a narrative of resilience. The Wales unit feels central, future-focused, stabilizing. Louise aligning within that orbit strengthens the perception of a cohesive next-generation bloc. Camilla, meanwhile, stands as the current queen, constitutionally secure but historically complicated. Once Charles's reign concludes, whether years from now or sooner than expected, her role transitions. Queen Dowager is a title of respect, yes, but it is quieter. Peripheral to executive influence. If William's emotional loyalties lean toward his cousins and siblings of choice rather than step relations of obligation, Camilla's sphere naturally narrows. That possibility alone explains the intensified public presence after the inheritance news broke. It was not anger, it was calibration. Now, consider Louise's crossroads. She has genuine options, something rare in royal life. She can remain largely private, complete her English degree, use Balmoral as a personal retreat, marry outside the royal machine if she chooses, fade into dignified obscurity like other extended royals who live comfortably without public roles. Or she can step forward gradually, not as a flashy influencer royal, not as a scandal magnet, but as a quiet asset in a slimmed-down monarchy that desperately needs reliable figures. William's vision appears to favor competence over quantity, trusted faces over surplus titles. Louise embodies that model perfectly. That kind of anchoring matters when power dynamics evolve. Balmoral itself is evolving too. Maintenance costs are significant. Charles has already begun evaluating financial efficiencies across royal estates. The days of unchecked spending are over. The monarchy must appear leaner, more accountable, which makes every privately held property symbolically louder. Louise's cottage is not just brick and mortar. It is Queen Elizabeth's final nod of trust. William chose to make sure the world knew it, and Camilla chose to respond not with protest, but with presence. The crown may sparkle in public ceremonies, but its real power shifts in moments like this. Quiet, calculated, deeply human. And this one will echo long after the Balmoral mist settles.